All right. Hi again, everybody. Well, I seem to be on a roll, so I'm going to keep going. I've got one more frame of reference in my mind, and we'll see what unfolds because I truly don't know. So, I was living in the church. It's an old church, and it's a church where there was a very, very, very small congregation. It's an 1890 brick church with large ceilings and only about 6 people who went each week, most of which were family of the clergy. And that's on a good week where everybody showed up. And so I had already understood well before this that it was difficult for them to pay their bills and that the money was very tight. And the reason I'm saying this is because it was only 40 degrees at best down in the annex. And I was given the joy of learning to live in the cold right then and there, learning to live in spaces that were given to me, which most people would complain about, that I know. Maybe not most people in the world, because in the grander spectrum of things, it was really truly a blessing. 40 degrees isn't so bad when you have food and a food room, you know? 40 degrees isn't so bad when you have a bathroom, you know? 40 degrees isn't so bad when you can cook because there's a stove there, you know? And 40 degrees isn't so bad when you can turn the lights on and see at night and know where you're walking. So, while I digress and while I continue to speak about 40 degrees and how it was a blessing, I'll transition. That place gave me the opportunity to get deep into the Bible. I was able to spend 18 hours a day reading the Bible, just the New Testament. I was told to get to understand Christ and what Christ taught before delving into the Old Testament. You know, as I've learned, the Old Testament is, excuse me, a much different story than the New Testament. There's a lot of what people don't like to read in the Old Testament. And I'm so thankful that I was given the directives to study the New Testament over and over and over again for hours and hours and hours. So after a couple months of just reading and going to sleep and getting up and reading some more and going to sleep, walking to the local bookstore where they allowed me to not buy anything and reading and highlighting everything that I found interesting, then rereading and rereading some more, I started to talk to the priest about what I was reading. I had questions and a sincere heart to ask those questions from. I just wanted to know the answers. I wasn't there to beat him up over what the words said or get into arguments questioning what was happening, but that's kind of what happened. To no fault of my own, with zero intentions of having it happening. One day I went to the priest and I asked him, "Sir, why is it that God says in the Bible that he hates incense at his assemblies, and you have incense and do incense ceremonially at every church function?" And I'll tell you, his face, and this is no insult to him, and I can understand, and I'm not trying to talk down or degrade him, but I am giving you the testimony of my life and what I've experienced. His face got so red, and he got so angry and flustered with me, and stammered and slammed himself about, and lost grip of his speech, and the tone of his voice got enraged at me, and what he was saying didn't make any sense. He just said, "This is the way it is. We are the longest standing tradition in Christianity, and we do what's true." And that was it. That was his justification for doing something that I had read God hates. And so I'm not trying to beat up on any one denomination or any of them. That's not what I'm here for. I'm actually here for the unification of denominations in Christ, that we all become one, just like John 17 speaks of in the last video I was able to teach on. I'm actually here so that all the people in all the denominations can see themselves in each other and treat each other as though they are themselves. And so I left that encounter bewildered and sad and hurt. Here was a man that I respected and admired and loved, and I had went to with a question, and I was beat up for it. I was given rejection, and I wasn't given a logical explanation or answer in my mind. To him, it may have been logical and may have explained totally exactly why he did it. But to me, it seemed like he was going against the commandments of God and against what God said, and justifying it based on a history of a supposed faith, a history of a belief in traditions, which to me were going against what the Bible said. And so I prayed. I prayed to God. I said, "Lord, what is going on? What is happening? What is true and what is not? What is religion?" And it was amazing. We can hear that train in the background. I don't know how loud it'll get. We'll give it a second here. But, I really prayed and asked what the truth was and what religion was. And I was told to sit down and open my Bible. And so I did. And this was something that I was doing quite frequently during those days. That's actually how I was studying every single day. I would just sit down and open my Bible to wherever it opened to, and I would put my eyes to wherever I felt led to, and I would start at that point. And if it didn't make sense, I would close it and open it again and do the same thing. But this time, I opened directly to the page and put my eyes directly on the place where it said, true religion is this: visiting the orphans and widows in their affliction, remaining unaffected by the world. Now, remaining unaffected by the world kind of escaped my grasp at that time, as does much of the Bible for all of us. You know, it's normal for us to read things in the Bible and to have parts of them either not make sense or to escape our understanding. But what did sit with me and what I did understand was that I was to go and visit the orphans and widows in their affliction, meaning where they were hurting, meaning I wasn't supposed to go and try to help them escape what was happening in their lives, but I was to go and actually sit with them and be with them there in that place. So, that's what I did. Well, let me back up. So I prayed about that and asked how I should do that. And I think this is a great place to stop. Let's leave it here and move on to the next one. All right, peace be with y'all. Thanks for tagging along.